Welcome back. You're watching CNN. I'm Brooke Baldwin. Live pictures, Greensboro, North Carolina. We're watching and waiting to see Donald Trump there speak. He's promised to prove evidence, to provide evidence, disprove the women who in recent days have stepped forward accusing him of groping or sexually assaulting them in the past. A lot of people questioning the timing of all of this, of course. Look at the calendar. 25 days until Election Day. But my next guest says he's been trying to expose Trump's abuse of power and prejudiced behavior for a while now. He is Kwame Jackson, the runner-up in season 1 of Trump's reality show, The Apprentice. He has had a relationship with Donald Trump since that show aired in 2003, 2004. And Kwame joins me live. Kwame, nice to meet you. Nice to have you on.
Good to be here, Brooke. First of all, let me say go Heels to a fellow Tar Heel.
Go Tar Heels. Thank you for the Tar Heel love. Now on to the news. First, just because I was talking to Karen Tumulty with the Washington Post, this latest woman coming forward. For you, what you saw, what you heard, how did Donald Trump treat men versus women on the show behind the scenes?
You know, I think there was a subtle difference between men and women. I think there was more of a boys' club among men. I didn't see any egregious behavior towards women or necessarily to minorities at that time. But I think the bigger question here to ask, Brooke, is why is the litmus test and the bar so low for America? Why is the litmus test that we have to have a tape that says, you know, Donald Trump uses the N-word and he calls Kwame this in the boardroom and people are looking for those tapes? Why is it that there had to be a tape from Billy Bush to come out to talk about why he treated women the way he did and show the specifics behind it? With the bar so low, we need to think about the history of his behavior that I've been speaking about over the last 18 months and goes back to the 70s with, you know, the federal accusations in court around his refusal to lease his properties to African Americans. There's been a long history of negative behavior towards minority and women folks, and the fact that, you know, we have this such a low bar that in a day of what I call kind of all lives matter, you know, why is it that after insulting Mexicans, after insulting African Americans, military veterans, disabled, that we got to the point that he insults white women and then it becomes America's fault line? So I think that's a broader question that we have to ask.
Earlier this week from The Apprentice, who was bringing up that exact same point.
Yeah.
But on the issue of race, I know you've recently made headlines because you have come out, Kwame, and you've said, you know, Donald Trump is a racist at his core. But I have to push you on that and just say, what did you witness that proves that assertion?
Yeah, so personally, he never used the N-word or said something racist to me. What I did get from Donald Trump was what I saw through the birther movement. I wrote an op-ed called Show Me Your Papers. And Show Me Your Papers was how he led the birther movement against Obama, which I felt was a personal indictment against me. It basically said, if you're a minority professional, you have to show that your resume is valid. You have to show your transcript. You have to show your ability and validate yourself to be here. And I felt some of that same pressure after the fact on The Apprentice. I felt as though he had talked with a number of people in my background about my time at Goldman Sachs and other employers, and he was always trying to figure out kind of what is this, you know, African-American guy with his Harvard pedigree doing on my show and why is he involved? And so I felt like there was this...
Kwame, if you didn't have any specific, you know, interaction with Mr. Trump from the show or even in the years since that proves to you tangible proof of his racism, then how do you square that?
Yeah, no, the squaring for me is the fact that, like I said, the litmus test isn't that someone calls you the N-word. The litmus test is a history of bigotry that basically says, if you look at multiple incidents of how he's treated African Americans as well as other minorities in his business dealings, the fact that there were no minority professionals in executive management roles in any of his companies, at his casinos, at his hotels, anyone I interacted with on the show, the fact that he would lead, you know, like I said, a birther movement that basically used race against President Obama to make him an other, I felt all those were personal indictments against me as well. So if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And I think the fact that America says, oh, until you use the N-word on tape and we can see it, you are not a racist, that is too low of a bar.
I'm listening to you, Kwame, but I'm also just trying to be fair, and I'm thinking of what Trump has said about, I'm trying to think of what Trump has said about these women, for example, and he's saying, well, where were they, you know, years ago, and why didn't they come forward years ago? And then I could say the same to you, you know, you're on the show 10 plus years ago. I'm sure the show didn't hurt your career, it raised your profile. Where were these opinions 10 years ago, Kwame?
Yeah, so for me, it's what I call a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde evolution. The person that I met on the show when we filmed in 2003 was an egotistical boss, a rowdy boss, but no direct racist behavior towards me. There had been a history of some documented racism that was kind of scuttlebutt and rumors around the show when I first came on, but I said, hey, let me figure it out for myself. Obviously, as we fast forward to the birther movement, which is the tipping point for me and many Americans and many African-American voters, you see a history after that of repeated incidents that basically validate to me the fact that he has bigoted and racist tendencies. And I don't think, like I said, the bar should be so low that someone has to be, caught on tape saying the N-word for them to be a racist. That's not the society we're trying to live in as America becomes more pluralistic.
Okay, Kwame Jackson, that's a question for this country. Kwame Jackson, thank you so much. So
Thank
nice
you
to
for your
have you on.
time.
Thank you.